Just a heads up before we start, we are live streaming the meeting. It goes on our YouTube channel, so just be aware that everything you do say is being recorded. And we will start off as always with our karakia. So I'll ask everyone to stand, come up on the screen. Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga. Kia mākina kina te uta, kia mātaratara ki kai. E ake ana te atakura, e te o he buka, e o hua, te hei malu. Thank you. Yeah.
No. How did you know that?
Because he left it.
Right, so the first item on our agenda.
You can take it for him.
Apologies.
Because got ideas.
We have one from Victoria, so do I have a mover and just for that? Emma and Ellie, put that motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
It's carried. Declarations of interest, I haven't heard any.
Oh, Emma, just one from me.
Apologies, Simon, I didn't know about that one, so that's for the Better Off funding.
Item 11 for Te Orohau.
Yes. Simon, confirmation of previous minutes. Do we have a mover and a seconder? I know it was last year, but hopefully it can happen. Sunita and Emma.
Okay.
Oh, no, you weren't there.
I wasn't there.
Pauline and Emma. So we'll put that motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
That's carried. And that takes us on to item number 4, which is public forum. We have a couple of people today. Public forum, the general rule is 5 minutes and leave some time for questions if you would like to. First up, we have Rose Wells and Sam Turner speaking on behalf of Te Kura o Matarangi Northcote School regarding traffic and parking issues around Fenchurch Street and Northcote. Welcome along. Now, I didn't get you to push the button on the microphone, the one for the person. So
It goes red.
It was already read.
There you go.
perfect.
Hi, Emma. Thank you for having us. I think, yeah. So I'm here to speak about the traffic and parking issues around Fenchurch Street and the surrounding areas. I'm kind of here on behalf, I'm the presiding member of Te Kura o Matarangi Northcote School, but also live at the end of Fenchurch Street, so I'm kind of get a front row seat to what's happening. And a couple of weeks ago, there was a post on the local community group on Facebook with residents expressing concern. So I thought it might be a good idea to come along and kind of have a chat about what's been happening. So, so the area kind of we're talking about is kind of bounded between Tuckers Road, Main North Road and Northcote Road, just the kind of side streets, and then most of them are narrow suburban streets, with Uxbridge Street being a little bit wider. Some of the issues that were raised in the post were around parking, traffic flow and pedestrian safety. So the parking, there's been increased parking on Fenchurch Street. Basically, since November, tradies from the Pack and Save site have been there, and that increased beginning of the year when Marion College reopened for the year. And then in the other streets like Uxbridge, Paddington, Camden, Ealing, there's Kaiangaora construction sites that also have increased vehicles partly, so that's probably a more temporary problem. And the traffic flow, so all of the roads except for Uxbridge Street are quite narrow, so when there's a car parked on either side, it's reduced to one lane, which reduces visibility and increases congestion and makes it a bit hard for residents to get in and out. And some parents have had concerns about children walking to Te Kura o Matarangi Northcote School safely. There's decreased visibility from the extra cars and increased traffic, so that makes crossing the roads more tricky, and some drivers are driving a bit fast. Do you want to?
Yeah, sure. Kia ora koutou, the principal of Te Kura o Matarangi Northcote School, Sam Turner. So some of our parents have been commenting that they've noticed a lot of those safe crossing spaces are no longer there because there's cars blocking the view for the children to cross safely. So where they've trained their children to cross is no longer a viable option because there's cars on both sides. And other parents have commented that as they've been driving towards school or back away from school, they've seen children crossing in between cars. And from a school point of view, we just feel like it's only a matter of time until something kind of happens, and we really don't want that to happen, as you can imagine. So we love that there are many children in our community that still are walking to school in we're not having a huge amount of traffic drop-offs like a lot of other schools, but definitely this is having an impact. I've noticed it when I've been going out in the day that, you know, sometimes we're talking 150 metres, you're having to kind of see the car far up ahead and let, you know, do a bit of it's like an old English street, you know, letting each other go and that sort of thing. So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so there's some other obviously issues with resident accessing the properties, and another problem is the emergency vehicle access. If there was, you know, a fire engine headed to come down the street and it was really blocked, it might have difficulty getting down, and also cars parked over fire hydrants would be another issue. And so basically at peak time, the streets are becoming one-way streets for quite large sections, which is not that safe. So we're going to focus on the congestion at the Northcote Road end of Fenchurch Street, because that seems to be one of the bigger problems, and that's also, I live in that area, so I can kind of see firsthand. So basically with the intersection, it's a small side street entering a busy arterial road. It's a thoroughfare for several local streets, but it also becomes a thoroughfare for some of the other larger streets that may not, perhaps they should be taking the traffic, so it can get quite congested at busy times. And so, yeah, it becomes an uncontrolled one-way street at peak times, which means there can be quite a large section with vehicles not really knowing who should be giving way. So this is just some photos I've taken coming home from work at around 2:45. I'm coming off Northcote Road, and there's actually, the cars aren't parked all the way back, so there's a bit of room to wait. But in the picture with the car on the tow truck, before the traffic moved, there were about 3 cars behind me backed up onto Northcote Road. And there's just some other images, quite hard to see in photos, but around walking to school for school pickup, you can see the cars kind of waiting at Northcote Road end, trying to get in while the cars come from the other end. So just ideas for improvements will be extending the yellow lines. Because a few years ago, they were extended on Fenchurch Street further into the intersection, but on the west side, they don't go as far, and I think it could probably go equally as far or slightly further, because in the pictures I showed, that's where the parking started, and I think when it's too far back, there's only room for like 2 cars there, which is not enough. And another thing would be to paint yellow lines around some of the intersections on the other corners, so people know not to park too close. Another option could be time restricted parking, like I was always school on the weekend for cricket, and I noticed they had a zone with no parking on school days from 8 till 9 and 2:30 till 3:30. And I thought that could be an option for part of the street, perhaps the first section, or maybe on the west side. It might help keep the traffic flowing better at those busy times. Another thing was to make the fire hydrants a bit clear. Last night there was a car with a wheel right on the fire hydrant. So if there were yellow lines on the curb and perhaps marked parking spaces, it might make it clearer for people to know not to park there. Another possible option is it's probably not enough room, is to paint, I've just mocked it up here, turning lanes, because if someone's turning right and they kind of park in the middle, that means there's no one can turn left. And when I turn right, I usually try and pull as close to the middle line as I can, and then cars can still turn left. But if someone doesn't realise that, or there's a big vehicle, it can block the traffic up while the left turning lane and can't get through. Just a couple of other thoughts. The Pack and Save opening next month, I don't know where their staff are going to park, if they're going to park on site or in the surrounding area, but if they're expected to park in the side streets, then this problem is going to come not just a school time problem, but a lot longer and every day. Another couple of things is I think some of the people came down Northcote Fenchurch Street to go south from around the Tuckers Road kind of area, because if you go to the end of Tuckers Road and turn right into Main North Road, it's an uncontrolled right turn into a dual carriageway, which most people won't do. But it's easy to drive down Fenchurch Street and turn left and then right at the signalised intersection. So potentially putting traffic lights there might encourage more traffic to go that way. And Uxbridge Street is wider, can take more traffic, but because it's close to the level crossing, it's blocked off for right turns each way, which means basically Fenchurch Street's taking a lot of the right turning traffic that it's not really built for. So some of these things might not be possible or feasible, but it's just things to consider. That's the end of my presentation. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Rose. I really appreciate the fact that you come to us with a problem, but then you've also offered a solution. That's fantastic. Ellie, you got a quick question?
That was exactly what I was going to say. Are you a traffic engineer by chance?
No,
Okay, all right, well, you could be.
I'm a graphic designer. That helps.
No, well, honestly, that was fantastic. Have you made any inquiries with the police and the council regarding enforcement where there have been issues?
No, because most of the issues I've seen have not been enforcement issues. They've just been too much
congestion.
traffic. There's been very few. I think I know that you probably have been in some places, but most of the problems I've seen have not been enforcement issues.
No, okay, all right, that's about all. Obviously, I think, could we discuss this further?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, we have already been on to stuff about it. I know Rose and others have been through the call centre and raised tickets about this. And the advice that we've had from staff is that now that Marion College students are back, they have had tube counts ordered, because where they put things on the road to measure the number of cars and the speed, and will carry out further investigations to see what effect this is having on Paddington and surrounding streets. Once they have this information, they'll look at what no stopping and or timed parking restrictions are appropriate to the Uxbridge Paddington Fenchurch block and make their recommendations to us. So staff are onto it, they're monitoring it, and we will keep pushing that to make sure it happens as soon as.
Right.
Can we also find out what the arrangement is through probably the consent, I imagine, it might be, for the pack and say, because that's very, very.
I think Simon, you might want to add to this, but my understanding from what you've seen, Simon, is that the consent had staff parking on site.
Kia ora, yes, yes is the short answer. And I imagine, if I worked there, I'd be wanting to use the on-site parking rather than having to dash across Northcote Road. So I'd be optimistic, but I know we had that issue on Langdons Road at one stage when Northlink was reasonably recently open, with some staff being seen to be parking on the road rather than using the on-site parking. So it is something to watch.
Yeah. And just one other about heavy traffic. You mentioned, I think, something about vehicles using it that shouldn't be using it, or did I mishear?
It's not heavy traffic. No, just more that because it's the easiest way if you're travelling south from that kind of suburb, it's the easiest way to get onto Main North Road and Papanui Road. Right. And it's just that because I wouldn't want to turn right into Main North Road from Tuckers Road in busy traffic, because you'd be there for ages. And
so heavy traffic's not an issue?
Not really. It's there's enough room for things like rubbish trucks and those kind of mid-sized trucks to get through.
And trucks with cars on the back of them.
Yes, yeah, they can fit through. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very much for taking time. We have gone over time.
Okay. I want to ask a question about the Uxbridge intersection there with Northcote. They obviously don't, the lights there at Vagues Road, they don't come right back.
Uxbridge. No.
No.
Uxbridge is left in, left out.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming on.
Nice to see you.
Right. Great. And we do have another public forum today. We've got Don Jellyman here, who's chair of the Papanui Baptist Freedom Trust. So Don, you'd like to come up. And yeah, you've got 5 minutes to present and say what you'd like to say.
Kia ora, and thank you for the opportunity. I'm chair of the Papanui Baptist Freedom Trust, and really just an announcement to say that we've had we'll be having a change of manager. Damien Ardell, who's been our manager of over 10 years, and many of you will know him, he's been very much our public face. Damien has resigned effective from earlier this month. So it's given us the chance to kind of regroup, look where we're going, review our long-term strategies and plans, and watch the space. We'll be advertising for a new manager within a few weeks. So there was some concern amongst the community that some of our programs would have to stop. I'm pleased to say that people have just stepped up. So it's very much business as usual, and I'm really chuffed about that. We have a good board, good prospect, and a heap of opportunities in the community. So just thank you for your support, and we're up and going. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming along and keeping us in the loop there. And that's fantastic to hear that people have stepped up and are still carrying on as usual. Thank you.
Good luck with your search. Sure, something will pop up.
Thanks, Don. Right, item 5, we have deputations by appointment. And first up, we have Shirley Primary School students who are going to speak regarding the proposal for safety improvements at the Shirley Hills Warrington intersection. If you guys want to come up. Hello.
We don't bite. That we're delighted to see you here talking about traffic.
I'm Amania.
And I'm Anisha,
We are both in year 6.
and we go to Shirley Primary. We would like to speak today about the intersection of Shirley Road, Hills Road, and Wellington Street.
We think that the problems are
Cars go very fast.
people walking across the road could get hit.
It is hard to get across in a safe way, especially for children that are making their way to school or home by themselves.
It is difficult to cycle across due to the speed of cars.
There have been a number of accidents at this intersection in the last few years. We think the intersection could be improved by
Making the turning bay on Hills Road towards Shirley Road by the pharmacy wider.
having zebra crossings instead of just white lines,
Putting green turning arrows on all of the lights.
add speed bumps to slow vehicles down,
Adding a fence between the cars going straight and the current zebra crossing.
having counters on the crossing so that people know how much longer they have to cross.
Parking area for the electric scooters and no parking signs, as these are just dumped there and can become a hazard.
We want to make sure that children and their families feel safe crossing the nearby roads and are able to get to school and home without home again without being worried about getting hit by cars.
We need the council to help us make a change in our community.
Great, fantastic presentation. Oh, still going? No? Oh, you've even drawn the pictures here of what you want. Great, do we have any questions?
Speed bumps ×4.
Emma?
How do you get to school?
I get to school by cars.
Pass.
Cars as well. Do you have any friends who get to school by walking?
Yes.
Yeah. And this is where, so have you heard from them about the troubles at the intersection? And cyclists as well. So did you work as a group to put these together
Yes.
from school?
Yes.
Oh, it's fantastic. A really good, you've got good points and you've come up with some really good solutions.
Ellie?
The safety fence intrigues me. Can you talk about that a little bit more? So I know where you mean there. That's the slip road, right? Where it goes around the corner. So are you thinking that it would sit?
Follow the arrow.
Yeah, no, I can see where it goes, but would it go parallel to the road? Or is it to stop cars coming from how would it sit on that? Do you know?
Along like that, is it?
Yeah. Yeah, like that?
Is it made out of plasticine? It looks like it is.
And that would be to protect, people could walk towards that and then they'd have something to protect if there was a vehicle coming, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? No? So thank you so much for putting the work into that you obviously have done. Great. It's great that that group of you went out and actually looked at the intersection. You can see the photo of you.
Yeah.
That's really helpful for us to hear from you guys because we don't often get the perspective of children. So thank you very much. Next deputation we have Anne Scott from Spokes, who's going to speak about the same intersection.
Kia ora koutou.
Right, Anne, can you do just as well?
Kia ora koutou, ko Anne Scott Tukuwa. I'm here to speak about the Shirley Hills Warrington intersection. Next slide, please. So this is actually a really busy intersection. There's lots of cyclists and pedestrians around, and it's close to Shirley Primary School en route to other, and it's on the route to other schools down further at the mall. During busy times, there are lots of pedestrians and young cyclists using the road and the footpath. You often see mothers pushing prams and a little child biking alongside them on the footpath, and you see other older children actually cycling on the road as well. So this is actually quite a popular route for young cyclists. And then during the day as well, there are lots of other commuter cyclists using these roads for other reasons. It's also a popular bus route as well. Next slide, please. The slip lane is on, was there one before that? Sorry. I'll just speak to it. It should have been there. The other thing is we'd like to strongly support what was children called humps, which is the speed limiting solutions, the platforms that have been putting on here, because the platforms really matter. Platforms are really proven to slow speeds, and slow speeds means that when there is an accident, and there always will be an accident, both the most vulnerable users of cyclists and pedestrians have more of a chance of not being injured or severely or killed on the intersection. So raised platforms actually works really well in terms of providing additional safety. Next, please. The slip lane from to Shirley Road. I've got some significant concerns about this. This has changed since the original proposal that went out to consultation. There's now a new barrier that's pushing cyclists out further into the road. That's the orange bit at the top. This is the slip lane that goes from Hills Road into Shirley Road.
Travelling south.
Yes, yeah. Travelling south and then going east. Yes. And these kinds of barriers are a problem for less confident cyclists, because essentially they feel unsafe because now they've got nowhere to go if someone tries to turn in front of them at all. It may be that I can see why the staff have done that. They've done it because they want to push the traffic further over and make that turn more precise rather than people cutting it. But you might be able to do the same thing with poles, which means that a cyclist could actually duck inside it. You've also added in an extra car park, which doesn't help the situation either. There's also the better signage for the left slip lane will be very helpful, because actually there's nothing to indicate, unless you know, that is actually the left turn lane for this intersection. There's a big sign a wee bit further up, but basically it just tells you where you're going. It doesn't tell you actually meant to turn left there. I'd like the intermittent green markings over the slip lane, to be put back in. That indicates to both vehicles, to people driving vehicles and to cyclists, that's a shared space. And in fact, the sharrows are a bit strange in that position there. I am disappointed that the pedestrian crossing has gone, but I kind of understand, where people are coming from. But what that does is it means that the other end of the crossing on Shirley Road is that people will continue to cross right at the end of Shirley Road, and the stop sign has changed. The angle of the stop sign has changed. It's now more, instead of being straight on, it's now more angular. And that may well be giving a lesser view of cyclists who are coming straight through. But what it does do is it pushes the traffic back a little bit. And this is the current line the pedestrians are using to get along Shirley Road, right at the end of the street. This little turnout has lots of vans and trucks and all sorts of things coming and going into those businesses. And so it's actually not, without any sort of pedestrian crossing, it's not a good thing to cross halfway along. So overall, I think I'm really supportive of the changes, but overall, I think this is less safe than the consultation version for this particular section. I might have to ask you to go up again. One more. Is it?
You got the other one? Sorry.
Yeah, that's the one. No, go up one. It's the left-hand turn lane into Hills Road. Go up. Sorry. Oh, two down, sorry. Apologies. So the slip lane in, from Shirley Road into Hills Road, Spokes does prefer the removal of slip lanes as they do create conflict for straight through cyclists. And if you have a look at that bus there, that bus is about to nip left. It's actually gone quite a long way along, and that's because of the angle of the slip lane. And that'll be all right because the buses usually look out for cyclists and they know what they're doing. But you can see that if a car tried to do that, it could be quite misleading in terms of where the cyclist is and what they're trying to do. We do support the raised platform here. This slip lane, even though it contains a lot of traffic, does work reasonably well. It's not outright dangerous as the one down in Marshlands Road was. But in a perfect world, you would not have it. Down to the last slide, please. We really support the better markings for cyclists, including the stop boxes. That does a lot to improve the intersection. And overall, these changes are really good and will make the intersection a lot safer. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. Very detailed presentation. Any questions? Boy.
Yeah, thanks, Anne. Nice to see you again. The slip lane, not that one you're talking about, but the first one.
Yes.
Outside the motor shop and the tyre shop. Where was the pedestrian crossing on there? Was that right up the Hills Road end, was it?
No, it was in the middle. So the first version, the consultation version that went out, had a pedestrian crossing across, and that's been taken out since.
Right. And you'd like it put back in the same place, or just anywhere along there that the staff might feel is safe?
I think it would be better if it went in. If you look at where people are going in that road, they actually cross at the end.
They do, yeah.
On Shirley Road,
Yeah.
at the end Shirley Road bit, and I don't know whether you could put a pedestrian crossing in there and then have everything safe for everyone else. That would be up to the staff.
Okay, no, thank you. That's all.
John.
Hi, Anne. Again, that northeast, the larger of the slip lanes, you mentioned poles as a way for cyclists to duck inside of. I got a bit lost there. Could you, I'm just looking at the map and trying to get my head around that.
Can the map go up?
That one.
Yes, that one. So that's on Hills Road. That orange thing has been added in since the consultation. And so I think in actual fact, you could put poles along there to force the traffic over.
Oh, instead of
that orange thing. Yeah.
Got it.
And the thing about poles is you can actually duck inside them if you want.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Not if you want, if you have to.
If you have to.
Yeah, another thing, just one more question if I may, and it relates to the same slipway. That actually serves as an access to the businesses and ins and outs of there.
Yes, it does.
If we got rid of it, how do you think they could cope with that?
What do you mean got rid of it?
No,
Got rid of the slipway.
the access comes straight down.
Yes.
So it's
You're not talking about getting rid of this?
no,
not getting
Oh,
rid
you
of it.
know, okay, it's reinstating the crossing and those other mitigations.
It
That's
was
fine.
the one on the
slip
other
lane.
side.
The other slip lane.
Yeah, I
I
know.
was talking about that slip lane.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I've got it. No, that's okay.
I don't think you could get rid of the other slip lane.
Indeed,
It's
I was thinking.
too many businesses.
Yeah, I was going too far ahead of where you were.
Just for clarity, you're saying better practice, you wouldn't have the other one
No.
either, but you're okay with it in this situation.
In this situation, it's working reasonably well.
Just want to be clear about that. Yeah, thanks.
But there are some other slip lanes around the city that I really feel are really dangerous, but this one kind of works.
Right. No more questions? No? Well, thank you once again for taking the time to us. Appreciate your input.
Is it actually a slip lane that, or is it a road?
It's more in the manner of a road.
You can ask staff maybe when they come to speak that
It might
one.
have its own name.
Right, no petitions today. So that takes us to item 7, which is that intersection. So I'll ask staff to come up. Oh, that's Stephen today. Welcome along.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Hi again.
I'm obviously not Gemma Dione. She's double booked and she's out at Horseville Hornby Riccarton this afternoon for another one.
So why did she choose them and not?
Yeah, I knew I was going to get asked that. I'm not going to speculate on that.
He chose us over them.
Yeah, right.
So with me, I've got Danielle from our engagement team and Stephen White, Manager of Operations for Transport. I'm hoping that we can do justice to the hard work that Gemma and her team have done over the last few months to bring this together. Can we move to the next? Oh, hang on, I've got. Haven't I? So the why. Right. Can we move that, Mark? Slow. There we go. Hill, Shirley, Warrington, Why? We want everyone to get where they're going safely, regardless of how they travel. Having safer speeds and infrastructure is part of our solution for a safer network. This is a busy location used by many people travelling to school, the shops, or across the community, particularly at school times and commuter peaks. There's an ongoing risk to all users at the intersection due to the number of users and the mix of transport modes. The intersections within our top 1% of intersections in terms of crash risk. In the 10-year period from 2014 to 2023, there have been 32 crashes recorded by police at this intersection, 5 of which have resulted in serious injury. 3 involved people walking, 1 involved a person cycling, and 1 was a vehicle-to-vehicle crash. A high number of vulnerable users passing through the intersection, including the students from Shirley Primary that we heard from just before, and residents of the MetLife Care Village on Shirley Road as well, or another group who nearby use the intersection. The council has a level of service target to reduce the number of deaths and serious injuries from all crashes by 40% by 2030. This is a goal in a road safety action plan, the collaborative plan between City Council, Waka Kotahi, ACC, FENZ and New Zealand Police. For Council to reduce death and serious injuries on the network, we need to create a safe transport system, one that recognises that humans make mistakes and that these mistakes do not need to cost us our lives. Council has the greatest influence in delivering safe speeds and safe infrastructure, such as this proposal. A safe system assessment was completed as part of the optioneering for these improvements. This is a formal examination to assess the existing and proposed layouts and how they align with safe system principles. In this case, this was looking at the 3 options presented in the report and assessing the risks associated with each and the potential outcomes in the event of a crash. The graphs presented there show the scoring for each option. A lower score indicates greater alignment with safe system principles. Option 1, which involved mostly lane marking changes to provide greater separation between crosswalks and features such as advanced cycle stop lines, provides minimal safety benefits for pedestrians and cyclists. There's a slight decrease in crash likelihood from these features. However, the severity is not reduced because we're not addressing speeds. Likewise with option 2, which involved providing fully protected right turns on the Hills Road approaches, as well as providing pedestrian protection from turning traffic. This would increase safety more than option 1, although not significantly. And again, we're not addressing the severity of any collisions because we're not dealing with speeds. Option 3, which is the option before you, achieves 30 km/h safe system speeds through the installation of the raised safety platforms, which is a primary treatment option. It offers high safety benefits due to the severity and likelihood of collisions decreasing with the lower intersection approach speeds. In essence, option 3 is, as it is a primary treatment, is the only option that decreases the severity of crash types and achieves safe system speeds for vulnerable users at the intersection. Shown as the scheme for approval. Following consultation, there were a few changes that were made to the proposal. The first, which Anne alluded to in her deputation, was with regard to the inclusion of additional island and road marking changes on the Hills Road North approach. This was to accommodate a sign to provide additional wayfinding for drivers wishing to access Shirley Road to turn left using the slip lane, as you can't turn right, well, you're not supposed to turn right down at, left down at the signals. It also...
Yeah, why can't, I mean, what's the reasoning behind that?
Because there's a slip lane provided. I guess when I say you're not supposed to, we're actually looking to ban that as part of this, to encourage people to use the slip lane. Part of that is to do with how tight that turn is and the ability for larger vehicles to get around there. Yeah.
The car would be able to perform the manoeuvre fine. If there was a bus or any other larger vehicle, they'd probably get stuck. If you look how tight the radius is on that corner, how tight all the lanes are, there's not the space there, unfortunately.
So providing that island in that position also tightens up that left turn movement and encourages that to be undertaken at a slower speed. This also probably relates to that position being a place where pedestrians are crossing. Unfortunately, there's driveways on the northern side there that access the two businesses. So we're a little limited in terms of what we can improve for pedestrians who cross at that area, but if we are trying to manage speed through there, that certainly assists in some respect. The second change was upgrading the signal hardware to allow for further changes in the future. It's proposed to retain the existing phasing arrangement, which would require right-turning traffic on the Warrington and Shirley Road approaches to filter through opposing traffic. However, we are providing pedestrian protection for all pedestrian crossings. So that's through the form of left and right red arrows. The third change was with regard to the removal of the raised zebra crossing within the slip lane. Primarily, this was driven by cost. It's a difficult environment to work in there with that large tree that's on that corner. And the issues with lighting that we would have to upgrade to provide that. So it came at significant cost. So we have amended that to have a speed hump and speed cushion as well. Those measures don't preclude further improvements from being made in the future. And the other change was to add some no stopping lines on the north side of Shirley Road outside number 9. It's just to provide some clarity, as there's a bit of ambiguity there as to whether you can park there or not because of that tapered white edge line that's there at the moment. Pass you over to Danielle.
Awesome. Kia ora koutou. Just because during our consultation we consulted on this intersection and the one that we went through on Tuesday night together, some of the tactics I run through will be a repeat of that, but just as this is a recorded meeting, for those that watch online, I'll just run through everything. So early engagement with affected businesses, key transport stakeholders and nearby schools started in October last year. Staff visited businesses located around the intersection and between this intersection and the Shirley Marshlands intersection, and left material inviting them to contact staff with questions or to book in a time to meet if they wanted. During our visits, no concerns were raised, and several businesses commented in support of the plans, citing issues of unsafe driver behaviours and speeds. And some businesses went on to make submissions, which I will touch on soon. Staff met with the principals of Shirley Primary School and the principal and deputy principal of Pariawa Banks Avenue Primary. Both schools supported the plans and felt that they would make the intersection safer for all road users, including the students and families getting to and from school. The schools also agreed to share the information via their networks with the school communities. And of the transport stakeholders we reached out to in advance of consultation, we heard back from Generation Zero, who supported the plans and were in agreement with the issues it sets to address. And we also heard from the Automobile Association, who requested some clarification, including on how the plans may affect flow of traffic through the intersection. Then in terms of public consultation, that started, I'll just get you to go to the consultation slide. Sorry, Mark, thank you. Public consultation started on the 8th of November and ran until the 6th of December. An email was sent to key stakeholders to notify the consultation. Local businesses were again provided information about the plans and the opportunity to provide feedback. The consultation was marketed via council and community social media channels, the Newsline and the Pegasus Post newspaper. We had physical and digital signage at Te Ora Kiwi 2 Recreation and Sports Centre, the Palms washrooms, Shirley Library, and on the streets of the intersection for pedestrians to interact with. And residential addresses located directly around the intersection and between the Shirley Marshall and Shirley Hills intersections were delivered print information as well. And take-home print material was available at local preschools, schools, and the library. And Shirley Primary School also kindly allowed us to engage with the school community before school one morning, and we collected submissions from parents and students at the school gate. Takes me to the next slide. So in terms of what we heard from submissions of the Shirley Primary students and parents that we engaged with, all 6 of the parents that submitted said that the proposed changes would make the intersection safer. And of the 24 students that submitted on the plans, they thought the plan changes would make the intersection safer, with the other 4 feeling neutral or not changing their existing somewhat safe rating for the intersection. And then in terms of the local businesses that submitted, we heard from the Hammersley Pharmacy on Hills Road, the Christchurch Therapeutic Massage Centre on Shirley Road, both of which supported the plans and the issues it sets to address. And although Christchurch Therapeutic Massage Centre have asked that impacts to their business, including access to the business and parking, be mitigated during the construction. And Shirley First Learners on Slater Street suggest that we use green arrows to manage some of the unsafe driving at the intersection. Then in terms of the recognised organisations that we heard from, the Ministry of Education, Spokes Canterbury and the UC Climate Action Club expressed support for the proposal. The proposal, MOE and Spokes believe that the changes would improve safety for all road users. Although UC Climate Action Club said that more could be done to increase safety and enable active and public transport. And then Anne's obviously provided some additional feedback on those changes to the plans tonight. Environment Canterbury supported the proposal to improve safety for all road users, although they didn't support the inclusion of raised safety platforms because they perceived negative impacts on bus travel times and customer experience. And similarly, Go Bus had concerns that raised platforms might affect passenger, driver and comfort and cause wear and tear to the buses. However, compared to the Shirley Marshlands one, they thought it would have less negative or minimal negative impact on their service delivery. Te Manaora also provided some feedback. They didn't provide a submission, but were in support of the plan. Next slide, please, Mark. And then, jumping into the table breakdowns. Overall, the existing intersection is perceived as being very safe by about 1/3 of the submitters in its current state. If the proposed changes were implemented, this would decrease to 20%. Interestingly, within the overall decrease, 26 submitters made the drastic shift from the very safe rating to the very unsafe rating. And 23 of those were car drivers. The table does, however, show that there's an increase in submitters feeling somewhat safe with the proposed changes. And we'll go to the next slide, please. And there's just a breakdown of some of the themes and requests that came through. The top supportive aspects of the proposal were around support for the safe speed platforms, support for lower speeds, and the feeling that current driver speeds in the intersection are unsafe. In terms of the concerns that came through, we heard opposition to the safe speed platforms, concern for cost, concern around potential congestion impacts and potential impacts on driver frustration. And then around the top request that came through, it was just around requests for changes to the traffic light signals and phasing to deal with some of the issues that we see at the intersection. Here in the next slide, sorry, we've broken down safety perceptions by method of transport through the intersection. Most methods of travel show an increase in feeling very and somewhat safe with the plan changes. Submitters who cycle, walk, or use multiple modes of travel were more likely to feel safer with the proposed changes. However, submitters who were car users show a shift from feeling very safe to less safe. They provided some rationale for this rating in their comments around the opposition to safe speed platforms, cost, and driver frustration. Just noting a trend here, and the people who've said that the planned safety improvements would make the intersection less safe. Quite often their comments aren't necessarily around safety as such, like some of the examples I've just given. And then the last slide, thank you. Here, submitters' shift in perception of safety has been broken down by reason for travel. Across the group that use the intersection for multiple reasons, submitters generally shift to feeling safer with the plan changes, and that group, just noting, includes 34 parents and students from Shirley Primary School. And then similarly, the number of submitters who said that they go to school in the area and those who visit sometimes who feel very safe increases with the proposed changes. And of the submitters who live here, 3 who currently feel very safe said that they would feel less safe with the plan changes, and the other 2 would feel neutral with the plan changes. And then just finally, less commuters said that they would feel very safe if the proposed changes were implemented. It's enough talking from me, sorry. I'm going to get back.
That's more or less the end of our presentation. We can move on to questions.
Yep, we have someone go, Jake, and Pauline, then Emma.
The feedback around congestion, I'm keen to understand what aspect of the plan did submitters that said that felt would offer up congestion.
Yeah, it was a mix. Quite often it was around the safety platform, just because it obviously slows speed. So people thought if people going slower, then there would be more.
3 seconds for an intersection.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. People say what they say, I suppose.
Jack, Pauline?
Yeah, it's quite often very slow through the intersection anyway, so I don't think that would really make a big difference. The slip lane platform on the northeast side there that Anne spoke about. What's your opinion on her suggestion of using the little bollards instead of a big lump of concrete?
And that to our technical team.
Because we're using them around the city quite a bit now, aren't we?
We are, and they often they are a bit of an ongoing maintenance issue for us.
Let's look at the one in the end of Westminster.
Yeah. That's right.
It's a fair concern that's been raised. The main thing we're trying to do there, I think it was in one of the photos from the deputations of the bus. We're trying to reduce the angle.
Yes.
And by not having that there, people do swing in.
Yeah, but I'm talking about using the bollards
instead of doing that. But the other thing that's serving a purpose for is to actually locate a sign. I think a few people have raised concerns earlier around, do people know that's the only way to turn left?
Yes, but you could, if we use pens, you could still put a blob of concrete at the north end of it.
Yes.
Because her concern, I think, is valid, that cyclists have got nowhere to go if something happens.
I think we can definitely look at that through detailed design. It's not something that's, we would like something there, but what it looks like, we can adjust.
Why do you want something there though?
Like we've just said, to try and increase that angle for turning traffic, so they're not taking a long swooping turn and actually exposing cyclists to more risk. We want them to make a more definitive hard turn to the left.
And it's slow it down
And-
to
and
going
slows it
to
But then cyclists are more at risk by being pushed into the traffic by having to go around it.
The position that they'd be in is the same as what someone who is within this cycle lane at the moment would be anyway. Not everyone pulls immediately to the.
You know, the issue is more that if something happened there,
There's no.
the cyclist has got nowhere to go except into that big blob of concrete.
Yeah, I know.
If it was a permeable
Yeah,
thing, they
yeah.
would, but anyway, thank you.
It's not too different to if there's parking there either. If you have parking right up to the intersection, but we can certainly look at that through detail design and see how we can improve on that.
And did you have any comment on any of the ideas that came from the school? Like the plasticine fence?
The railings are a funny one,
Yeah,
and they sort of come in and out of fashion with
yeah,
traffic. One of the downsides to them is if you ask, they're not there to actually protect you from an impact. They're there to try and guide you where to cross. And if you do it on one side of the crossing, you have to do it on the other side as well. It's dangerous. You get a group of people starting to cross, and then suddenly they can't get to safety. They have to funnel over to where the railings end.
yeah.
Um,
And that's another issue too, just one there, that if children are crossing from the, should we call it the little slip lane on the south here, across the Lundy Road, and they're going straight up Hills Road, they will cross at the mouth of that slip lane on the north anyway. So I
That's only one way.
suppose that your slowing the traffic down will help that anyway, won't it?
It will help them, and the way that island's being built on the southeastern corner, the island is going to be elevated
Yeah, but
compared
they
to the
won't cross
walkway.
there if they're
Yeah.
going north, will they?
No,
No.
they're going to go.
But you think that changing the angle coming into the slip lane will make it a bit safer?
It will do,
because
yes.
it's slowing cars down. Thank you.
Emma,
Do you know why the crossing was taken out on the slip lane?
Yeah, I spoke to that previously. It's primarily around cost.
No, not in this plan, but the one that was there originally.
There hasn't been one there previously, as far as I'm aware.
No, I don't think there is.
Yes.
Emma. I think it's.
Our consultation plans showed a crossing.
Yeah,
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but, yeah. Once we did a bit more investigation, it became pretty clear that it was quite cost prohibitive to actually implement that crossing.
We would need street lighting added in and a whole load of other stuff as well. So on the surface, it looks easy. We can just paint some white stripes. But yeah, unfortunately, because of where the tree is, for zebra crossings, you need to provide a right. There's a legal requirement of lighting that you need to install that isn't there at the moment.
and like I think it was Anne mentioned earlier, the desire line is actually people want to stay on Shirley Road. They wouldn't go up halfway up there, cross and come back.
No.
Yeah. You're going to go north, you're going to go north, you're going to go east, you're going to go.
Yeah.
I was just thinking it's one way, isn't it? That, yeah,
It is,
slip
yeah.
way is one way, so, yeah, it's. I don't see why it couldn't have crossing straight across from one footpath to the other. Apart from the fact that.
I mean, it's still going to be relatively safe to cross because it's a small section of road, slip
Yeah.
road.
Yeah, but
and-
you've got a large number of
Yeah.
children and they need things to feel comfortable.
Definitely. And, sorry, being one way as well does make it a lot easier to cross. They only have to look at traffic coming from one direction, and having two speed calming devices on that section is going to make sure people are going slow.
Take your word for it.
I hope that's going to be the case anyway.
Oh, just hope now.
John,
Yes, thank you. My question is supplementary to Pauline's question, really, in the conversation about the northeastern slip road, so to speak. And that is, there's a spokes recommendation that restoring the green bands rather than the sharrows that are there on this latest plan. I wonder if you could speak to that, because I thought that made a bit of sense. But so the previous plan had.
That's something that could be looked at in detailed design to those specifics around those markings.
Okay. And just one more question, if I may. We haven't talked today about phasing of lights, but like the other intersection that we discussed on Tuesday, Has hardware been engineered into this so that phasing can be modified?
Did
And
talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely,
Yes.
yeah.
oh, I'm sorry that yeah.
It's a lot like the earlier one we had, so.
Same as,
Yeah.
yeah, same thing. Thank you.
And we'll go Ellie, then Pauline, then Simon.
Thank you. Mentions that the crash risk is high here in the top 1%. What is the crash risk?
Was all in there.
Yeah, I'm just wondering what the
Oh, so-
percentage was,
so-
because we were I think we heard that there was like a 95% crash risk at the other intersection the police had mentioned, so I'm just wondering how high it is here.
Well, I can't really comment on how high that specific risk may be, other than to say that, you know, an assessment was undertaken of all high-risk intersections in Christchurch, all our intersections, and this is within the top 1%.
The other
You're-
one was
you're wanting to-
35, I think, was
Right.
the other
This is number 12 on the list.
12.
This is 12.
Number 12. Yeah, so this is
Yeah.
worse than the other one.
Okay, it'd be good to know what the crash risk is though.
Police probability stat, hey, like
Yeah.
95%.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be nice to have some idea because
It's 100%.
yeah, but it kind of, it's neither here nor there when you hear that it's got a high crash rate. It'd be nice to know what that crash risk rate was. Would it be fair to say that the consultation clearly showed that there was support for traffic signals and phasing and road marking, but not the raised platform? That you got real sort of significant pushback on that, but the traffic signal phasing changes and other road markings there was support for.
Yes, you'd be correct in that.
Okay.
From commuters.
From the people who were asked to submit. Thank you.
Pauline.
Yeah, just look, I'm wondering that the raised platform on Marshland Briggs, have we had any feedback from ECAN about that with the buses? Because I think Gemma said yesterday, now you're doing them with a steeper hump going in and softer coming out.
That's correct, yeah. That's to try and mitigate the impact on buses. But we have got a working group set up with ECAN where we meet, and we actually meet with all the bus operators to try and resolve some of these issues. And what we've actually asked for is some data from them. Some of the things they're saying is that they're potentially damaging the buses. But I will show us some data. Let's work with
Gemma
you.
said that yesterday.
Yeah, because one would think that if they are slowing down as well, it shouldn't damage the buses.
Yeah.
And that's the idea
Yeah.
of them, isn't it?
Oh, everybody needs to slow down, whether you're a bus, motorcycle, cyclist.
Everyone.
Yeah.
But no one wants to.
Thank you.
Simon.
Thank you. My question relates to the slip lane on the southeast corner, turning left out of Shirley Road into Hills Road. We had a big conversation on Tuesday night about left turn slip lanes. And I'm just wondering if consideration was given to deleting that slip lane for this, for the pedestrian safety rationale, and any thoughts or any comments that staff have on that type of approach.
It was considered, yes. Unfortunately, we run into two issues there. One around significant cost, and that relates to the lack of room that's actually available to accommodate it there.
Yeah.
To do so would be getting into the realms of property purchase. Not to mention that a good chunk of that area is actually bridge that spans Dudley Creek there. We'd be having to do works on that bridge to accommodate that additional width, and that's very expensive. So yes, we did look at it. A preference would have been to be able to do that, but it's cost prohibitive, so we haven't explored it.
Thank you.
I'm happy to move this, by the way.
Okay, we'll come to Ellie and then Emma.
Just a question around the speed and red light running, which obviously is an issue on a lot of these kind of intersections as well. What sort of enforcement already takes place to try and mitigate and manage those things which are a police issue?
Red light running and speed, there's a national program of rolling out cameras, and unfortunately it's not being prioritised by us. We're working with the team, but we can only try and put our best foot forward to get the money for more red light running cameras, and it's not going to be prioritised by us, unfortunately. From our professional point of view, they're a really cheap, easy solution. You can put a red light camera in with next to no impact on the public, but they have a big impact on reducing red light running. Revenue, people always talk about revenue gathering and stuff. if you think about how much it costs to do this scheme, to build something, and even if we save 20% of crashes, you could put a red light camera in for next to nothing and save the same amount of crashes.
I absolutely agree.
So we're all for it, but our hands are tied.
Yeah, I know. I would like to see the city council actually probably at councillor level be far stronger in advocating for this from central government, because you've nailed it. I mean, it's a ridiculous waste of money when you could whack a camera in.
And achieve good
From a
outcomes.
speed perspective though, which is what you're talking about here and trying to slow people down, which is why you won't just go with the traffic signals and phasing and road markings, the raised platforms come up again and again. What's happening as far as enforcement for speed goes? Is there presence there by police? Did you talk to police about what they're doing around enforcement there?
Yeah, we do talk to them, but again, they're like us, their resources are quite tight. So I think Lachlan mentioned we have a road safety action plan, and that's a combined plan between, or a collaborative plan between CCC, FENS, the police, who else is there, Lachlan? ACC.
Yeah, right.
It's a collaborative, we work together on the strategies that we want to deliver. And this is something that, or these type of measures are something that the police are supportive. It actually makes their life a little bit easier because we're physically making it harder to speed through the intersection.
Understand that. Yep. Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
The UC climate group suggested that it could have been better. Did they have any suggestions of what they wanted, what they thought those were?
Yes, I'll have to jog my memory from the exact submission. Their thing was the more we can encourage people to use public transport, the better. I know on one of the intersections they were mentioning maybe just sort of closing streets off or intersections off, and then their main option is public transport. But yeah, on a lower level, they were just saying just so they do agree with slower speeds through the intersection if that's what we can accommodate. Yeah.
Sorry, what was the first thing that you said?
I would have to read the submission. I know they were just saying prioritising public transport.
Oh, that's right.
So
where are the bus stops? And like we've made sure that they're as close to the village as possible in the plan, have we?
Bus stops aren't being amended as part of this work.
But are they? Because everything we should be doing is looking at improving public transport.
Definitely, we've got a whole separate programme on bus stop improvements.
Okay, so where are the nearest? There's four. There's one, I believe, I know Shirley Road, Warrington, but the other way, are they close to the village? Where are they?
I'm sure, to be honest. But we do have a programme that looks to make sure bus stops are in the right, working together with ECAN again, working to make sure the bus stops are in the right locations and making sure that we provide the right infrastructure, like shelters and seats and so on. So we've got quite an active programme in that space. I couldn't tell you specifically on this one, sorry.
Great. Right, what's happening at that corner? It should have happened years ago.
Right, any more questions? Right, Pauline has moved. Emma, you'll second it? Yeah, cool. So we'll move into debate. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. We can save yours for you.
I don't think we really need to debate this. It's a no-brainer, and I just thank the staff for the work on it, and particularly and it's the same with the other day, the efforts you're going to consult with all affected parties, I think is fantastic, and the businesses and the schools and the affected neighbours and all the interested groups, and also the way you listen to Anne and take on board what she's got to say. So I'm really impressed actually. So thanks very much, and this will be a much safer intersection. It is getting very busy now.
Else?
Yeah.
Simons, yep, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Just want to comment on a couple of things. Thank you, yes, to staff for the work on this, and just acknowledging the members of the public that have contributed their feedback as well. And thanks to the young people that came along to speak to us today. On the right turning arrows, I understand the rationale for people requesting right turning arrows on all approaches at this intersection. I do also appreciate the impact that that would have on the performance of the intersection overall. And this is an intersection where there are running options on it, particularly for for a couple of the movements. And anything, if we looked at adding turning arrows that increase throughput delays, we would be risking pushing up frustration, but also pushing up rat running in the local area. Unfortunately, there's only so much weight I can put on some of the analysis of the public feedback around that shift in safety perception when we have people who seem to be using that shift from very safe to very unsafe to signal an objection to the idea of one of the changes that we're making, more than making comments on safety aspects of it. And I do also share the concern that's been raised around that island on Hills Road on the approach from the north, and I would ask if staff can revisit that during detailed design. That would be very much appreciated. Thank you.
Thanks, Simon. Anyone else? No, okay, we'll put that motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against?
I'm against it.
Ali is against. That is carried. Thank you very much, staff.
We'll record that for Ellie.
Yes, we'll record that. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, item 8. Peterborough Street, Upper Manchester Address Street, angle painting. I'm happy to move this. Jake, second it. Are there any questions? No, any debate? No, we'll put that motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Thank you. Against? That's carried. Easy.
Thanks, Ian.
Item 9, draft South East Central Neighbourhood Plan.
Thank you.
Kia ora koutou. My name's Laura. I'm in the urban regeneration team. We've got John, who's also in the urban regeneration, and Danielle from engagement. I think we've got some slides if you can get them up. So we're seeking approval of the draft Southeast Neighbourhood Plan for wider consultation. We have a few slides just covering the key aspects of the neighbourhood plan. We're happy to take any questions and feedback following the presentation. There we go. So I last came to the board in September where we covered off the early engagement results.
Was that the one at Phillipstown meeting, was it?
No, it was here. It was a briefing we had here.
Which area did we do at that meeting? Was it? Because I'm just familiarising myself with the central up in the Linwoods.
The trees.
There was the greening there.
Right.
Yeah, so this is in the central city surrounding Te Kaha.
It's coming back to me now. Coming back.
I will do a little refresher just because September feels like ages ago. So we've been pulling together the draft neighbourhood plan since our last presentation, and the plan reflects the feedback from our stakeholders and a range of actions to support the transition of this neighbourhood. So the purpose of today's presentation is for the board to provide any feedback on the draft plan, any feedback on consultation tactics as we move into formal consultation, and then endorse the plan to go out for public consultation, hopefully. So just noting, we've attached the plan to your report, but it will be tidied up by design before it goes out for consultation. So there is a chance to make some tweaks if we need to. So the background on the project is available in the report in the draft neighbourhood plan, but this neighbourhood plan responds to council resolution to integrate Te Kaha into the surrounding neighbourhood and catalyse regeneration. The plan also closely aligns with council's strategic direction to grow the central city population, the urban forest plan and the climate resilience strategy. In summary, this neighbourhood shown on this map has a significant opportunity to grow and transition to accommodate more residents and support intensification in the right places in the city. The plan sets out a vision and actions, and the actions are both council-led and supported by the wider business and resident community. There's some pictures that our wonderful photographer at Council Kirk took. So shows the area quite well with lots of vacant and underutilised land. There's a real opportunity for growth, and a growth of new housing in the previous commercial area is already evident. Some of the challenges of the existing area are car-dominated streets, low street amenity and low community capacity. There are also some challenges that come with a mixed-use neighbourhood, including noise generated from light industrial and music venues. You can see in one of the pictures, I think there's car service right next to residential. So it comes with its challenges, but all part of a transitioning neighbourhood. So we're keen to use the levers available to us as council to effect change and transformation in this area so it becomes a more appealing place to live. This will help accelerate growth to achieve our population ambitions while also encouraging good outcomes. It is important for the community to guide what is necessary in this neighbourhood. So I touched that we talked about early engagement back in September, but just as a refresher, the feedback helped us to develop this neighbourhood plan. We gathered over 600 pieces of feedback from more than 220 community members and groups. We targeted current and future residents, businesses and developers. We used online tools, so Social Pinpoint. We hosted an in-person event and we met one-on-one with organisations and developers in the area. So what is the future of this neighbourhood? The neighbourhood will evolve over 10 plus years. Back in 2018, the population was around 1,400 in this neighbourhood, but we're waiting on updated census data, which will give us a better picture of the recent development that's happened in this area.
Do you know when that's due?
Soon.
The last census data should be starting to be released in sort of October time. But it may not get down to this sort of level of detail at that time.
Thank you.
We expect to see more mixed-use developments as the neighbourhood evolves, with ground floor commercial and residential above. We expect to see more trees and green space. With the growth of townhouses and low-rise apartments, this area could easily exceed 5,000 over the next 5 to 10 years. This area is key to achieving our central city-wide ambition of 20,000 residents by 2028. So to encourage the growth and make it a more desirable place to live, we will need to use a variety of initiatives to build momentum. So just into the vision and key themes of the document is a bit of a summary. The vision aims to capture key features of this neighbourhood and express its unique value. The feedback through early engagement has helped shape this vision, with people seeking vibrancy, a mix of activity, greenery, and a variety of homes. This has helped to shape 5 key themes, which I'll run through quickly. So good mixed-use neighbours. This is the first of the 5 themes, and it aims to aid the transition to a good mixed-use neighbourhood. It includes supporting current businesses, growing the range of services to meet residents' needs, and navigating potential challenges in the mixed-use environment. Noise from music venues is an example of a current issue that is causing tension in this neighbourhood, and we're supporting both the businesses and future residents on this issue. There's an update report coming to the council on 1st of May regarding central city noise, and we'll make sure that the 2 projects are well aligned through our consultation. Quality housing. So we want to see South East developed to be a vibrant place to live to accommodate the growing population. We will need a diverse range of housing that attracts people to live in this area. Housing providers will take the lead on this action, and we will provide support through advocacy, offering early support and guidance, and potential partnerships with social housing providers to see more affordable housing in this area. We've assessed all the available land for redevelopment, and with a predominantly townhouse typology, we could see around 6,000 extra residents. But if we start to see more low-rise apartments, this could easily exceed 13,000 residents. We've seen lots of low-rise apartments elsewhere in the central city, as shown in the bottom left there. So it's realistic to see this type of development in this area. By investing in the public realm, we can help to encourage higher density homes. Having townhouses near parks are a big advantage for developers and residents. We heard through engagement that there's a lack of neighbourhood parks in the southeast area for the growing residential population. The tree canopy cover is currently low, shown on the top right of the slide. For many blocks in the neighbourhood, tree canopy cover is under 3%, shown by the kind of whiter ones is where it's really low, and it gets darker up into that Moa neighbourhood and around the river. Overall, we are at 7.5% for the neighbourhoods, so one of the actions will be to grow this. Actions will be focused around growing tree canopy, and also highlighting that the long blocks between Barbados and Fitzgerald aren't very accessible, so they're an opportunity for some of those mid-block link parks. We aim to tap into development contribution funding to deliver public open space. With the huge residential growth anticipated in this area, we can rely on these DCs to overcome some of these budget constraints. Growing our tree canopy cover will be delivered through private developments, transport projects, and finding one-off opportunities to add trees to streets. Transport was a focus for many respondents, with people commenting on the need for improved cycling and pedestrian journeys around the area. There's a few suggestions for lower speed and a number of areas where safe crossing points could be enhanced. The poor amenity of the streets was a common theme, with people suggesting planting and seating to help make the streets more pleasant places to live. There's some planned upgrades already underway around Te Kaha, which are shown in pink on this map, and the active travel budget that was introduced in the 2021 LTP, which may not be retained in the draft LTP, but we still recognise that as the neighbourhood grows, upgrades will be needed in this area. The orange dashed lines are the priority streets to be investigated for future funding. We've captured the community feedback regarding transport and have focused the actions around investigating these improvements further as the neighbourhood grows. The scale of improvements may include some light touch changes in the short term and advocating for more permanent upgrades in the long term. Strong sense of community. This is the last action. The southeast area has a number of emerging identities, including the new development along Royalta Park as part of One Central, the Salt District, and an existing population on Wells Street. This theme supports the priorities in the strengthening community strategy, with a focus on building a sense of belonging, activation, and fostering local identity. Promoting the neighbourhood will help to further stimulate growth. There are some existing resources and funds that allow the community to lead this action with support from the council. Just going to some consultation.
Thank you. I'll just touch on what we're thinking around consultation. And so we'll go out for public consultation around early March, and we'll do the standard 4-week period. And we will be utilising our Kōrero Mai Let's Talk consultation page, and also a range of print and digital tactics. And considering early engagement was so intensive for us, as Laura touched on before, our tactics will largely focus on reconnecting with those different groups that we've already heard from and that help influence the draft plan, just to make sure that there's nothing that we haven't considered, and that the plan's vision aligns with what people were sort of expecting. So some of those key stakeholders that we'll reconnect with include local associations, business and operators in the area, government organisations and council partners, resident groups, inner city developers, and our community development advisors within council who have already helped us to sort of map out some key stakeholders in the multicultural, inclusive and accessibility space. And we will also mail consultation information to the absentee owners in this area. That's me.
So next steps, going up for consultation in March. Mid-2024, we'll come back to the community board with a finalised plan for endorsement, and that'll need to go to council for adoption as a guide to decision making as well. We're happy to take any feedback or questions on the draft plan.
Yeah, we've got Jake, Ellie, Niam.
Thank you. I really like the way you've done this bit of work. You know, the consultation now at the end is really just the I won't say a tick box because I'm sure something will come from it, but you've actually done, you know, this is a co-created plan with the community. 10% roughly of the CBD's population, is that what you're thinking this area currently contains? What are we at? Is it 10,000 in CBD at the moment?
We're currently at less than 8,000.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Actually more like a quarter.
I think it's made crept above 8,000. I think the estimates been adjusted.
Yeah, they do adjust them.
Yeah, we work on the stats and NZ population estimates, which come out every October. So we're kind of working on the sort of the ones for last year. So it's about 8,000.
You don't factor in building consents into that at all?
So in terms of the population estimates, that's one of the metrics that Stats New Zealand do actually track to estimate populations. And we track that separately because that's council data. We have that on our dashboard, so we can look where the trends are in terms of building activity. Consents don't always translate into people, unfortunately, but it's certainly a good guide.
And I'm assuming that once council ratifies the plan, the idea is that projects from within it will go into the next LTP. Is that the timeline roughly?
Yeah, that's the idea. So some things will start to deliver straight away. We have existing budgets that we can tap into. And I mentioned the DCs, which we can be using, but this is a tool that can help advocate for future LTPs as well.
Then have you thought about reaching out to Christchurch NZ? Their urban development function obviously has a pot of money they can use to deliver housing.
Yeah, so we're really well connected with Christchurch NZ. This area isn't a current kind of priority for housing delivery for them, but we'll carry on those conversations. And also other partners like Kaingaroa for housing opportunities.
And finally, do you know anything about the Red Bus site in terms of what's happening there?
Yeah, so that is one that is more on Christchurch NZ's radar. So we'll continue to work with them on what happens in the future of the site. I understand it's currently leased and they're not actively looking at changing that right now. But it is such a big portion of land that will one day change. And that is one of the reasons we're looking at this area is because
It might be something we should push CCHL to look at. Cool, thank you.
Thanks, Ellie.
Thank you. Yeah, I totally agree with you, Jake. I think that bit of land is really important, especially, and this is what I wanted to ask about, around transport. Because a lot of people are asking me about how are people going to be getting to Te Kaha? How will they be moving around once it's open and there are big events? Now, I know that buses, park and ride, that how much of that is being factored into what you're doing here as well?
So the Te Kaha Streets package, which is already planned, and those plans have gone through consultation, that covers off a lot of the movement around the neighbourhood. So there's lots of bus drop-off zones and people will get buses and walk through this neighbourhood, which is a reason why we've highlighted some other streets that need looking at as well. We've got Oricon, who's an external consultant, just to do kind of a wider picture, knowing what's happening with Te Kaha Streets, what else is there, what is missing, and we'll be able to kind of monitor how those movements go with Te Kaha.
And what about the bigger picture stuff around things like park and ride, and also, of course, this light rail thing that they're talking about? I mean, is that factoring into Oricon's considerations as well?
Yeah, so that wasn't part of Oricon's brief, but we will stay in the loop with how light rail progresses. And then also, as you mentioned, the more creative things of park and ride, car share type things.
Parks,
exactly.
all of that stuff. Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's part of the transport action.
Awesome, thank you.
B&Bs. So I imagine it's an area where there would be a great desire to have B&Bs. Has that been discussed about, like the possibility of these neighbourhoods turning sort of into ghost neighbourhoods?
Airbnbs, you mean?
Yeah, B&Bs, yeah.
Definitely a consideration. I think it'll be a really attractive area considering Te Kaha is going to be there for short-term rental accommodation. And for us, having a great neighbourhood is vibrancy and lots of people living there during the day. So that's something that we can kind of keep an eye out how it evolves.
Yeah, it's my understanding that there can only be a certain percentage on a street now with the new rulings. Is that right? Or am I wrong?
I don't know about that particular rule, but certainly there's a now to get a consent for a certain number of days where a home is used as an Airbnb for an unhosted Airbnb.
60.
Yeah.
60 days.
Yeah, I mean, I think further to Laura's answer, I mean, I think it's inevitable that some people will see an opportunity in the stadium and the Airbnb activity, and it is something to monitor. And we have to accept there probably will be a portion of that. But what we were trying to do is encourage sort of long-term residents as well to move into the
percentage on you're half right. Percentage on a street can be used as a ground by which to deny a resource.
Right. So these sorts of things need to be, developed. We need to ensure that these things are pushed so that we don't just monitor it, we actually direct what's happening in the area so it doesn't happen. And the other one was about the DCs. So the DCs will be from the DCs in that area. Because I come from St Albans and we should have lots of DCs and I don't see any new parks there. So
whole CBD, I think, is the catchment area.
Okay, so they have changed the catchment areas.
They've reduced our DCs because of the amount of stuff we've got. So our DCs have been reduced hugely.
amount of stuff we've got.
Yeah, the number of parks we've got in the area and things like that.
There was that
So-
consultation a year or two ago about the DC.
Yeah.
The catchment areas, and they stay in that area now.
Yeah.
So can we find out what DCs we've got sitting in
That's
that
off
area?
topic, you know.
Yeah. But for this project, yeah, the DC policy, which obviously looks at the catchments, and where those catchments land and where the DCs are collected and obviously where they're spent. So, and that's part of the review of the DC policy, which happens outside the LTP. And that's one of the areas we're looking at in terms of funding for any projects that arise out of this work. And actually bearing in mind that we've got a huge potential for population growth here, which is good because it means that DCs can fund potentially a lot of those projects. And so that's one of the areas we're really looking at in terms of how we fund this.
And green space would be top of the list. Thank you very much.
Any more questions? Do we have any mover? John? You beat you, Jake. John, Jake, you can second it. Right, any debate? No, okay, we'll put that motion.
Thank you very much.
Put that motion, all those in favour?
Aye.
Against? That is carried. Thank you very much for your work on that. It's fantastic document.
It looks amazing.
Yeah. Item 10, discretionary response fund applications from Papanui Returns and Services Association and St Joseph's Indoor Golf Croquet Club. Welcome along and welcome back, Helen.
Thank you. Kia, it's nice to be back. It's like coming home.
Yeah, great to hear
So
you back.
it really is nice to be back.
Return Service Funds Association.
Do we have any questions for staff? Applications.
Maybe to move them.
Nothing to move them? Yep. I was gonna suggest a additional resolution for the croquet club. They asked if we would provide them with a letter of support for other funding they're going to be seeking for some other work they're having done. So Mark, you've got it there. Resolution number 4, we agree to a request from St James Croquet Club for a letter of support to present to other potential funders in relation to other upcoming works the club anticipates requiring.
Can I ask a question on that? Of staff? Is that a good idea? Are you amenable to that?
Yes, I think it's a very good idea.
Thank you.
Yeah, so you're happy following with that included? So you moved it. Seconded, Ellie?
Yep.
Put that motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.
Carried.
Good report. You see?
And you can stay there because we've got better off fund applications. It's exciting. When did you want to speak to them or?
Taken as read, I don't mind speaking to the first 4, which are mine. We'll have to, but take it as read. Any questions, please?
John.
Hello. Yes, I have a question, or just one by one. It probably applies to all of them, really. It's about exclude or surety of tenure, if you like. I'll use by way of example the Free Theatre, which looks great. I love this concept. They've got an arrangement with Pump House. Is there a lease arrangement there? Because I suppose what my concern I'm hearing here is if there's a change of mind, the good graces of the current owner are such that they can stay. What if that changes?
Good question, but I mean, I guess in any rental situation,
There is a rental, there is a.
the tenant is always worried about that situation, and a lease or a rental, same thing as anywhere else. So
Yeah, or a lease tends to have a more of a long-term surety than say a residential rental does, but I take it that this is
I
something.
believe it's secure. I believe it's secure,
Yeah.
but I couldn't give you a time.
No worries.
Pauline.
Yeah, look, this is just a clarification thing. So you've got a column here that says the number listed. But this fund is really allocated by community board members and staff identifying areas in the community that would benefit and fit the criteria for this fund. So I presume that, so I just don't want people to get the wrong idea that it's a fund they can apply to. And then when you say amount requested, that comes from discussions with staff to say how much would benefit you and.
And I can say before I've got long-term discussions, emails, visiting, clarifications.
questions. That's good. I just wanted to make that.
Yeah, and so we had a workshop back in October. And then as staff, we looked at the community board plan and looked at projects or possible projects in your board plan, which could fit this funding as well. And then I think a number of you brought some ideas to the table that staff went away and investigated, and this is the first tranche. Yeah. And then obviously we've got some possible projects that we'll bring to further meetings. To March, I think we bring them.
Thank you.
Thanks for clarifying that. Emma and Ellie.
And have you looked at ensuring that we're splitting the money sort of equitably around the,
when we had the original workshop, we staff said to the elected members, how would you like to split that? And because other boards had divvied it up a third, and the feedback we got from the members was that project by project, case by case, and depending on, and yeah.
Yeah, but I said equitable. So meaning, i.e. surely, are we ensuring that, this money is actually going to improve some of the problems that we have in our communities and trying to make our communities equitable?
I certainly hope so.
As it stands at the moment, I can answer that. As it stands at the moment, it's looking pretty good. So I've scribbled down some central, potentially subject to approval. Women's Centre, which has already gone through. Then you've got the Youth Hub, Petrie Park, Septed, the Bins, Free Theatre, something else for 10,000. I can't read my writing. And then Innes, you've got 2 funding applications that will be coming in March, and potentially at this moment in time, they're approximately 85. Another one for 10,000 that I can't read my writing, Septed, and a large bin.
I don't find
response plan, sorry, so the resilience plans. And then at the moment, as it's in Papanui, you've got the youth safety initiative and a resilience plan.
Am I going to repeat again? Central, how much?
If they want to go through.
Yeah, approximately 127.
And all 3 wards, unlike the last board I'm on, have similar socioeconomic kind of status. So if it's being split, it's being split.
No, they don't. I mean, Shirley is very deprived.
Phillipstown's probably the poorest in the city, so.
Yes.
So yeah, there are pockets that are very similar.
I'm not, that's what I'm saying.
No, we're like Central. There are parts of Central that are extremely deprived and parts that are not, pretty flat actually.
Yeah, I agree.
So it's a real.
But Phillipstown seems to have it's a focus, whereas, we've spent quite a bit of time trying to make Shirley a focus.
Right.
As well, and I just rang about because it's a focus.
And a lot of the money that's gone into Shirley has been infrastructural because of the road issues and the water problems in the area. So a lot of the spend, when we've looked at the budgets, we go, wow, that's a lot of money going to Shirley, but actually it's infrastrucral.
Yeah, I know, I'm familiar with that exact problem.
Same with us. Oh, and the community centre was insurance.
Just a reminder, we're still on questions at the moment.
Yeah, I'll find you.
Was that from you, Emma?
Yes, I suppose.
Well, just a couple of questions. The bins, which I raised earlier in the week. I'm still really uncomfortable with that. And what I would like to know is where the level of services with regards to delivery of rubbish, if you like, or I see it as a core service. The others I don't, and so that's why I'm questioning that. I don't think the board should be paying for basic council core services. And the Septed, I can't get my head around that either. Again, I would have thought that was something that should have been done from council as part of a large council program. And I know there used to be a team there and there isn't anymore. But again, I don't think this is something we should be doing in a piecemeal way like this. I didn't think Septed was an issue with these particular parks. So those are 2 that I still wanted to raise. Well, yeah, the level of service issue around the bins.
We have an answer for that.
I have an answer for that. Obviously,
all of the bins, as I said, at the workshop, the briefing, that, for all of them to be signed off, I needed to go to the Parks Unit Manager to get, the approval. And they have approved them. They would have loved to fund them, but there's no money. There's no money on budget for.
So why are we doing it this way and not putting it through in the LTP?
Good question, but what we know is the community from all of the where the bins are going have come to either the community board previously and talked to have made levels of requests about presentations about having the bins in those areas.
All right. My question is still, why are we funding this? I don't think we should. And the second thing is the septic thing. Just talk us through that a little bit if you wouldn't mind.
So that comes from your community board plans. So Petrie Park, Shirley Community Reserve. When the board plans were talking about crime prevention through environmental design, and we found again parks would love to do this but have no budget, and we thought the better off funding was a good spend to get that work done.
And what's the outcome of that though, Stacey? Can you communities?
Yeah, so they go through and they work with the community, the key stakeholders to go through a process on changes.
But are they, sorry, excuse me just for pushing this because I don't understand. So is this to look at what's needed through SEPTED in the future and what we can design? Is it looking at what we've got now?
Current, obviously, anything at Shirley Community Reserve will have to look at future plans on that site. But if you look at McFarlane Park, I know there's two community groups, Shirley Community Trust and Shirley Village Project, that are really invested in the park, and so is the community. And so it's going with them on a journey about how to make the park more safer, usable, to get more people interested and involved.
And is there potentially though more funding being needed after that report to then actually implement the stuff that SEPTED finds?
Potentially, but that would be, you need to do the body of work.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Oh, the community resilience plans, the community plans. Just wondering why, because it looks like it's all going to be done together. It's not like, so are they going to be done? One's going to be done with Phillipstown and one's going to be done with Shirley, and so they're not going to actually work together as a group and do it. Together.
I think the plan is for each of the community groups to come up their plans, but then the synergies and talking to the three organisations that have been identified to see where there's any crossover and sharing of resources.
So how were they identified?
They either went to the Civil Defence Emergency Management team and said that they were interested in a community plan, or they were for example, Toraho, they have a new facility, they have capacity, and they're in a prime location that if they had the staff and the resources available, if there was an event, they could set up as an emergency hub.
Yeah, because it seems like a lot of money to me, and and the fact that it's all there, that why don't we invite other areas to be involved in it and do one at the same time? Just because they haven't come forward and said we want one, why are we just getting the three? Why couldn't we be going, hey, we're doing this and we're running workshops on it. If your community is interested and if you're willing to sign on the bottom line that you will follow through with it, I don't see any reason why it shouldn't be open to all.
And I think the definition of the better off funding actually encourages more of what you're talking about. It talks about building social capital, encouraging participation, increasing accessibility, connectedness, that they should be doing, I would suggest, across the groups, not in silos.
And you'd think the outcomes with a greater number of groups involved would be better because there are more minds thinking about what needs to be done. And also you're sharing the funding, so you'd be able to bring in more professionals.
Economies of scale.
Yeah.
Steph, can you just clarify that these groups that this funding is for, they're just working as the umbrella group for a whole lot of groups in that area to work together on this plan, right?
Because they're the main groups within those areas, so they identify they're there
So it's
to.
not that they're working just their group.
No,
Just
wider community.
Yeah.
And I found that Civil Defence are more than happy to go out and talk and to start that process with a group that shows an interest to do that, as these groups have. And so if St Martin's did or Shirley or.
But isn't the template that they're working from essentially, I agree with what you're saying. If you've got groups that are working on this, and I hear what Emma's saying, that they're the umbrella groups, but aren't you just reinventing the wheel potentially in a silo situation with 3 different organisations, when if you did it together as a group, that template could be something they could all work and build on?
I agree. On a wider issue and a wider view of it, it would work. But each individual group, location, population base has its certain quirks and its certain needs and its certain strengths and its certain weaknesses that the groups who represent those people know and identify.
And I totally get that, Trev.
Yeah.
I do get that, but surely I'm talking about degrees. I'm not suggesting someone goes in there and cookie cutters everything. But if you at least had a basic pack for each group to be able to look at. So you need to start by setting up a committee. You need to start by setting up, and I don't mean to be teaching you how to suck eggs, but if they had a pack that gave them a way to start to then to be able to grow from that using those things you've just mentioned, isn't that a more effective way of getting some consistency and support?
And that's how Civil Defence.
That's how they do it?
That's how they do it.
They will have that degree of support to get themselves underway.
100%. They've got the resources and the tools.
Shows interest.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Yeah, that answers it.
Jake.
Oh, sorry.
I'll come back to Jake.
Oh, yeah, thanks. Is there any difference in how the Better Off funding works and DRF? Like, is there any difference between the 2 pots of money other than the origin of it?
I guess DRF, there may be some implication that they could come back next year.
Right, I see. Other than that, it is just the same. That's just a pot.
The criteria is slightly different.
The criteria.
And then groups cannot apply to the
Better Off.
Better Off funding.
The fact that you can't apply, and the other difference. So that criteria, though, that's council set criteria, isn't it? It's not government, because government does never tell you what imaginary criteria we put around it.
But then DIA
approved every single application.
yes, are the kind of watchdog.
Yeah.
For the.
Oh, they don't care what we're spending the money on. And I just want to flag, I'm happy to move it, but I would delete the I know it's already been taken, the Latham Square bin. I think the costing's right, because that's the 15,240 is the cost of 2 bins, not 3. And we just don't need a bin in Latham Square. And there's already 2 in Cranmer. So
Can I just double check, does that work with your resolution? Because I know that one thing wasn't supported. Because part of it said no, but I don't think it's Latimer. I'm pretty sure it's a different.
Edmonds Community Garden.
So
you need to change.
You might need to just double check on that resolution.
well, regardless of whether they support it or not, if it's passed, it doesn't really matter.
I think it's the OPEX though. I think it's the ongoing maintenance of it.
Council staff have to support it if there's an OPEX application.
I'm completely against the whole lot.
Do they?
Yes, they do.
Yes,
It's a cost to their
So that's in the really early on pages. Because we can't fund the project that then council has to to run it every year and year without being budgeted and civic.
But in the report, it says
Unit
unit does not think this is necessary and has no budget for this, but is agreeable if the board would like to fund another bit.
That was for the Edmonds Factory Garden on the rationale that they've already got a big gully bin outside the Paripakus by the car park.
And so they're happy to.
Saying they will pay for the maintenance.
They will.
Oh, okay, well, that's different then.
So this line I'm just reading out is in the decision-making authority, just in the introduction, projects or initiatives that change the scope of a council project, or that will lead to ongoing operational costs to council, will not be considered. Brackets, though community boards can recommend to the council that it consider a grant for this purpose.
But Parks have said that they will do it.
Parks say that, yeah, but we have to ask them, which we have.
Yeah,
They know.
yeah, right, yeah.
Any other questions?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep, on the rubbish bins. So tell me how the rubbish bins fit the outcome of responding to climate change through adaptive planning.
So people don't.
So collecting mixed waste rubbish. How does that fit? Please.
I couldn't be as direct as that, but I could say that as opposed to having it running around the neighbourhood on the streets, in the parks, kids having to pick it up, playing with it.
Getting into the waterways.
It's in a bin, it's not.
So we're just going to leave it for the next generation. That's fine. That fits, tick.
I can't make a comment about that.
Adaptation planning.
I guess
You got a
the
red bin?
object
I'm not
of
sure
it-
every funding request has to meet every single one of the bullet points. And those bullet points are for priority to be given, not to
Doesn't have to fit all.
threshold to be met.
But I wanted to know how it fitted that.
Okay, and you've been given an answer. Any other questions?
Yeah, what happens if we, because I don't support the bins,
We
and I,
can separate them out.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
Number 8, because that's the one Simon's got. No, the numbering, so it's now number 10.
Oh, that just for conflict.
oh, right, yeah.
That's for the conflict, but we
Just
can
had to know.
separate out any others.
Just notice conflict.
It is.
And I
the bin?
don't.
You want the bins separated?
That's number 6, just put it separately. Or just register your vote against it.
Yeah.
How much is it, 17?
Right, we can put it separately. For the
And the
others,
septic.
Yep.
I think it's 15.
Imagine what we could do for amazing signage for take your own rubbish. It's $15,000.
Oh, people don't do it.
People are too lazy.
It just doesn't work.
We are meant to be bettering the city, not taking care of lazy people.
It's not our job to use a stick.
Right, so what we'll do
If
first,
you do, you can put it in a
Is-
convenient designated bin.
we will, do we have a mover and a seconder for numbers 1 to 7?
Haven't they already been moved? Yep, and Jake.
I thought I moved the whole lot.
Okay.
But no, you
But it's up to you.
Yeah, no, Jake, you can move it. It's Anita, you want to second it? So this is numbers 1 to 7. So we'll put that motion. All those in favour?
Right.
Against? No, so that's carried. And so number, do you want 8 and 9 together, or are you only one of those?
What's
It's the bins are septic and Tuaraho first.
Just do the memo separately, 8.
Yeah. Okay, so number 8, which is the bins, favour,
Aye.
against,
yeah, me.
Ali and Emma, that's carried. Note that. Yes, you're having to move all of these.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and then number 9, the SIPTED reports. That motion, all those in favour?
Aye.
And against?
Yep.
Ali will note that, that's carried. And finally, number 10, the Te Oroho response plan. Put that motion, all those in favour?
Aye.
That is carried.
Yeah.
Without
Noting Simon abstaining.
right, thank you very much for your work on those reports. I just want to say the reports are very thorough and done a great job with those, so thank you. You're now well practiced for the next lot.
If I could just give feedback from the Women's Centre, how grateful and excited they were to get the funding from the board. And hopefully they were having an opening in their new facility, and I've encouraged them to invite the board.
Nice, nice.
Right, item 12, the area report. Then we'll take it as read.
I'm just making room.
Are there any questions on the area report?
How long?
Hold on, give us a second, give us a second.
I'll inquire now.
No?
Hold on, let's give us a second, let's refresh.
Well, we had elected members exchange.
No, we're doing the area report.
Oh, area report, right.
Just waiting on Emma.
So no one else has any other questions or anything?
No, I'm just looking through as well, but I need to refresh. Let's put the date here. Lot going on, eh? Our ward, it's looking good. Our wards.
I was surprised by the number of bins that are not collected, actually. I thought that was a really high number.
We've got 3 more not to collect, man.
Oh, 3 more. No, I mean.
You mean the household?
Oh,
Right, last chance, any questions?
no.
Okay, so we need a mover and a second for that. I'm happy to move. Ellie, we'll put that motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
That's carried. Thank you very much, guys. And finally, elected members information exchange. Any takers?
Happy New Year.
John?
We were just talking about the Edmonds Factory Gardens, the Friends, who are the volunteers that look after the gardens, are having a garden party this Sunday, I think it is the 18th.
Are they dressing up? In period and
Yeah. And I don't know if I don't know if I talked about this last year on the 7 Sharp TV NZ show. There was a really nice piece about the gardens and the people and the history of the Edmonds baking powder factory. If you haven't seen that, I have a link or, the MP4 or whatever to it, and I'll be happy to circulate it among members.
Yeah. Great. Thanks, John.
Thanks, John. Just on a couple of things I've attended over the last wee while, the Sticks Living Laboratory bus trip was really great. Victoria and I and Mark attended that, and a few members from both the other boards either side were also there, and that was a really great opportunity to see the work they've been doing over the last couple of years with the special funding they've had.
The 4-point-something million.
Yes, 4.2 million.
Yeah.
Yep. And also Pauline and Victoria and I attended the official opening of Marion College. Great to see that all finished and students in there using the space.
Pretty cool. I just was a bit disappointed that they didn't acknowledge the community board and the efforts we went to with that pedestrian traffic light in. But they were surprised how quickly it went in. Would have been nice. And also if they'd acknowledged you as well.
I acknowledge you and the board for that.
Yeah, but it was pretty good, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was nice. Anyone else?
Yeah.
Jake?
Pauline, I, Victoria's not here, obviously, but we should cover off the amendment process for the LTP. I'll let you talk to Shirley, but Northcote Road, the solution we reached there was to push it back a year, which satisfied the desire not to have an impact in this rating year, but kept it flagged in the budget. So make of that what you will, a year delay, but not lost. So that's what happened there.
Yeah, because on that one, they couldn't find a substitution anywhere for it. Tenshilly Road, I had a motion to bring the funding forward starting, it was 25, wasn't it? Just for 240,000 to just begin the geotech and the design and everything like that. And then a bit more in year 3 and then 4. And it's for next year that started, would have had a 0.01 impact. And we lost that 9,889.
I think fine.
To be paid.
No, sorry, no, I'm just thinking what I'm going to say after.
Oh, and but that just means that because it's already in the LTP in 2030, where is it? If we get submissions to come in and say people would support it, kicking off next year.
And that can be adjusted through the annual plan process anyway, right?
Yeah.
So that's another whole year.
Yeah, I know, but you say 2030 to people and they'll just be pulling their hair out on this.
Even if we can get submitters to who support it to make that known, then we can have another crack at getting that funding in these LTP sign off in June.
Yeah.
So what I'm meaning is you get another go at it.
So it just didn't make it into the draft.
Yeah, no, I get that. I get that. I know.
But yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty confident. I mean, I know one person who voted against it who later expressessed remorse for.
Oh, Jake, don't say that.
No, well, it's true though. The point to take away is that we're only one vote away.
Yeah, right.
It already should happen. So it's absolutely well worth
Well, thanks for
coming in.
pushing it.
Point.
Thanks for pushing it. It really needs you guys doing that.
The other thing that is of note is actually an idea that Phil and Pauline had to set up a $20 million capital fund for flooding. Now that we're through surface flooding, now that we're through the program of actually dealing with flooding issues that intrude on people's houses, now it's time, I think, we feel after this rating hump to actually look at where people can't get access to their homes because their street is flooded, that next priority of flooding, So I think that was.
And that will bring in the Edgeware Village, so it's actually 20 million a year
Edgeware.
citywide. We'll set up a matrix for prioritising areas, because most councillors have got some area of surface flooding that's impacting negatively, either on residents or to a large impact on commercial operations, as we see in Edgeware. It's not just Peter Tim's, there's quite a few other businesses there that are being really affected now, and for longer, because in some areas where they have surface flooding, as soon as the rain stops, it disappears.
Does it around Warrington Street, doesn't it?
Yeah, but then around like Edgeware, it sits there for ages. So so that was supported, so that's in the draft now, so that's pretty good.
Oh, thanks.
Some
On the whole, good
update.
news.
Yeah.
Appreciate you going into bat for those things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it obviously gives us an idea of what we need to push for in our submission.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Just one thing I would say to that though is that I think it's pretty clear though from the rounds of consultation we've had. Oh, that's my front door. From the rounds of consultation that we've had. What the support is like for something on that site too. So even though you sort of said, we need submitters to come forward, and I know they had to do that within the process that they're going to be submitting into, which would be the annual plan. But it's quite, you guys know that support is there for something on that site. So,
On the
Tenshirley Road.
they'll be submitting on the LTP.
Oh, sorry, on the LTP, I beg your pardon. Yeah.
Right, that's all. We'll finish up with our karakia. Kia wātia, kia mama, tēnā kau. Tēnā nana te wārua ki te ara takatana. Hoi ara e rongo, whakaira ake ke runga. E tina, tēne, huie, tai. Thank you, right.